Spark something uncommon this holiday season with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. It's the busy holiday season, and Uncommon Goods is here to make it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list. Gifts that spark joy and make you say, oh my God, this is exactly what I wanted to get.
My husband is notoriously hard to shop for a gift for. In fact, most holidays, we don't get each other gifts. We get each other experiences. And so I was really excited to go on the Uncommon Goods site. I love how it's separated into categories. And one thing we're big on is mixology. So immediately I saw the cocktail smoker and I'm like, that's it. And it's shipped from an independent business. I think he's going to love it.
So if you want to try out Uncommon Goods, we have something special for you. To get 15% off your next gift, just go to uncommongoods.com/guilt. That's uncommongoods.com/guilt for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
It is my husband's job to take out the trash. It is so my husband's job that we will start piling trash on top of the counter when that trash can is too full. One morning, our dinner from the previous night, it was in a bag on the counter, and our dog had jumped onto the counter. There was tacos all over the living room. It was trash. Did he feel bad? No. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, here with the lovely Brie Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
We have such a topic to talk about today because this is something that we hear a lot in our balance community. We hear a lot from people first coming into our balance community. And that's, how do I take so much stuff off my plate when my partner refuses to help in the household? And this is such an issue because there's so many different viewpoints on it, so many different situations, so many different relationship dynamics at play. And I'm excited to get into it. Like, how are you feeling about this, Brie?
Oh my goodness. It's bringing up a little bit of PTSD, I'll be honest. So I just want to the question spurred from our podcast group, which if you haven't joined our podcast group on Facebook, get your booty on over there. It is a fun group. We do lives in there. We get ideas for podcast episodes such as this one. What I'm going to say, though, about this is I feel like I've been in both situations. I've been in the situation where I had a significant other who didn't help out, and that went through different aspects. And us trying to figure out our roles in our relationship, and then one of us wanting to change that role and the other one not wanting to change the role. And then I've had a second situation where I have always felt very equal. If anything, it makes me uncomfortable with the equality.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes,
that's interesting.
I get squirmish about the equality of it because I'm not used to it. So I feel like I'm a burden sometimes, but that's neither here nor there. I'm working through it. So I'm excited for this episode too.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you so many questions about both of those things. So let's get on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
So when we talk about your partner not helping out in the house, especially the woman who left the question in our podcast group, how to practice boundaries with your significant other when he consistently refuses or neglects to show up as an equal partner, teammate in the home and life management and parenting. And when we were first talking about this, I told Brie, I'm like, I have more questions. And she's like, What are your questions? Because I think that there are so many varieties of relationships.
There are.
Yeah. And it all depends, like, what is the relationship dynamic in this situation? My first question is, I always look for proof. Like, not proof that like somebody's lying or anything. That's not the proof I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the actual like hard, cold facts in the situation. So when somebody says refuses, what did they say? What was the specific situation that they refused on? Tell me the whole story. Give me the whole scenario. That's what I want to know. Because as you said, Brie, in the intro, you were in both situations
Yeah.
where one was an outright refusal.
Yeah.
And I've seen situations like with my parents where my dad was oblivious to everything, like just didn't see it. Yeah.
Right? And I think that so like you said, there's a lot of nuance to that question
Yes.
because it could go in so many different directions. But with that being said, I'm willing to bet that a big chunk of our listeners could be like, yeah, I totally have that going on. But like you just said, it's different though in every household. It's different in every family and every relationship how that shows up because I could say that my significant other was neglectful and not showing up as an equal partner, but at no point in time do I feel like my partner ever was completely oblivious. There was some
Mhm.
chosen oblivion there.
Yeah.
And you're saying like in your parents, your dad was just oblivious.
Completely oblivious.
He wasn't trying to not help.
No, like neurodiversity, obliviousness
Yeah.
too. And my husband and I talk about this with all like a lot too, because we're all into neurodiversity in our household because we're on different sides of it. Me, I tend
Yeah.
more to the ADHD, and he tends more to something else, which I won't divulge because this is a public podcast. But we talk about this a lot. And there are some ways where you might see a refusal to do something. It might be an assumption being made in the house where
Yep.
here comes your partner. You've been working all day. They've been working all day. You go immediately to cook dinner. They go immediately to the couch. And you're like, they're refusing to help. And I can totally see how it could be read that way because I have seen it that way growing up. And I have seen it that way in my house too. And I've gotten really mad and really angry. But there could
Ooh.
also be the refusal to be like, I'm not doing it. That's your job. Like, that's a
Yes.
different situation we're talking about it. And that's what
Exactly.
you saw too.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And like I'm even going to dive into the whole because there was another comment on Facebook on a post you had
Yes.
written recently about let's see
Mhm.
what was the post called? Let me find it. I'm a parenting coach and here's what I tell women when their husband drops the ball. And the comment somebody left who didn't read the post but read part of it, right? And said that I
I
guess
could
I'm in
fill
the
you in on that post since I
Yeah.
was the writer. Yes.
Well, right. No,
Yes.
but I mean, I don't think they read the post. I think that they just read the title and everything. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But they said that, I'm a stay-at-home mom. That wouldn't happen to me because I have certain duties and he has certain duties and I wouldn't
Mhm.
expect him to do certain things. Actually, no, I guess she did read it, didn't she? Anyway,
She did read it.
she did read it because there's that one fact in there about like calling your kid out from school. And I missed that. Okay. But regardless, so she's saying how she's a stay-at-home mom. She has her role that she does, and he has his role that he does. And she doesn't feel like the two of them cross over, right? She feels like I would never ask him to do that. And
Yeah.
and I feel like in some cases that is the situation that they're in where you have your separate roles, but that doesn't mean that that other person can't ever help out.
So let's talk about those roles. When
Okay.
you decide on something that you are not going to do anymore and you delegate it to your spouse, that is you deciding on roles. So if you are a stay-at-home mom and you're like, everything at home is mine, okay, that's a choice. Like, I wouldn't recommend anyone to make that choice because I have to say, like, the home is a 24-hour a day kind of situation, while your spouse going to work is like, a shift situation.
Uh-huh.
So I wouldn't recommend you make that choice with saying everything in the home is yours. That's just putting like you will work nonstop. If you want to work nonstop, that is your choice right there. I'm just saying it. Just saying it to that commenter out there. I don't think it's the right choice, but that is my opinion. So when you delegate to somebody, sometimes there's a lot of guilt around that delegation. And I've experienced it too. I will tell you that it is my husband's job to take out the trash. It is so my husband's job that we will start piling trash on top of the counter when that trash can is too full to be taken out. And sometimes I see that and I'm like, oh my gosh, he is so busy that I should just do this for him and he'll appreciate me so much and he'll love me so much. Like, I wasn't aware of this line of thinking until I dug into it a little bit more. But I mean, that's what I'm thinking when I do the things. Oh, he'll love me so much and he'll see how valuable I am.
Yeah.
And like, he'll feel bad that he didn't get to it.
I think that's our.
that's what I think.
I think that's a typical narrative. So let's go. Tell me more.
So I noticed that I was doing this and
Mhm.
it was causing me a lot of resentment because did he feel bad? No. It was a simple, oh, yeah, thanks for taking out the trash. And it ended there. And that wasn't enough to fulfill my needs, Brie, because
it wasn't the right amount of response. There should have been fanfare.
Undying adoration of how I have come to the rescue again. And so noticing this line of thought that I was going through, I'm like, okay, this isn't healthy. I need to change this. And so I changed it by first like making very, very clear what was my job and what was his job. And in this situation, because I was so used to seeing this dynamic of my parents, like my mom would just do things and be like, oh, I did this again. You forgot about it. My dad would be like, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for doing that. And it would just keep repeating over and over and over again. So I actually went to my husband. I'm like, so it's your job that you take out the trash. And he looks at me. He's like, yeah, of course it's my job. Like, you know, he gives that situation like, duh, it's my job.
Hello, Captain Obvious. And you're like, there's a reason I'm saying this. Go on. Sorry.
Well, and I'm like, I need to say this out loud. So I remember I said this out loud, and it is not an assumption I'm making. It is your job to do the trash, and it is not my job to do the trash. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Good, we cleared that up. And so when it happened again, and the trash started piling on top of the counter, I didn't do it. I didn't take it out. I didn't even mention it to him that the trash started piling on the counter. What did happen, however, was one morning, our dinner from the previous night, it was in a bag on the counter because we got takeout. And I went into the living room and our dog had jumped onto the counter.
I was going to say, how does that method work with your dog? Because your dog loves to counter surf.
Yes, I love her for that reason sometimes too.
How many pounds is that dog?
55.
Yeah, all 55 pounds of her. Go on.
But there was tacos all over the living room and it was trashed. And I looked at it and I was like about to scream. And I'll let you know exactly what I did next, right after this break.
Green Chef in Every Plate is now owned by HelloFresh, and with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now our listeners can enjoy all the brands at a discount with Joanne and me.
Oh my gosh, it is really time to just step out of the recipe rut and make something fun without having to shop for those ingredients where you like only use a tablespoon of it and you have to buy the whole thing. HelloFresh has those pre-portioned ingredients, which mean less food waste.
And seriously, with the holiday season right around the corner, I am always looking for ways to have less stress. And one of my favorite hacks is to get HelloFresh because it makes mealtime so easy, hassle-free. Everything's delivered. I don't have to hit the grocery store for the umpteenth time that week.
Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free NGM. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free NGM.
HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Owen, self-help author with 19 translations of my books, global keynote speaker, and life coach. My podcast, Make Some Noise, has been serving up self-help in a simple-to-digest way for the last decade. The topics brought in each episode are practical and easy to implement around topics such as working through fears that keep you stuck, different modalities of therapy, managing your negative self-talk, and more. We bring you guest experts, solo episodes, and I even coach listeners on the air around relatable struggles. I also do my best to weave my sense of humor into some heavy topics because, let's face it, life can be pretty hard, and it's so much better when we can have some fun while walking through our challenges. Whether you're seasoned in personal development or just starting out, Make Some Noise podcast will help you become the best version of yourself, the person you're proud of when you look in the mirror and show up in your life. Simply search Make Some Noise with Andrea Owen wherever you listen to your podcasts.
So when I saw, Brie, all of that trash in the living room, my first instinct was to go back again to that, oh my gosh, look at all this mess.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to pick up all this mess. And then my husband is going to thank me and be, oh my gosh, Joanne, how can we live without you? I am so sorry. You are the goddess and you are the queen.
I would have been losing my ever living mind. I have a question on this story.
Yes.
But tell me if you can't answer it. Was he there when this happened?
He was not. He was in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
So-
All right. I just meant in the house. So yeah.
Yeah, he
Okay.
was
So
in the
good. At
house.
least it was a quick. Okay.
He was in the house,
right.
but I would have started picking up the trash very angrily. I would have been so pissed off, and I've been like shoving it in, and then I would have been like slamming doors, and then I would
Oh,
have,
and I also would have been screaming, "This is all your fault!"
yeah, I'm like, this is why we put the trash away. This is why. Like that, I would have done that. I
Oh
could've seen
yeah,
myself doing all that.
shame city, baby. Ticket
Yeah.
for one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I stopped myself, and I'm like, hold on. We had this conversation. This is his job, and if this is his job, then he gets the natural consequences of
Yeah.
not doing the job. And so instead, I take the dog and I go into the bathroom and I'm like, hey, so Addie got into the trash that was on the counter. And he looks at me and is like, oh. I'm like, I'm going out and taking a walk. And I just leave because I was upset, of course. And
Yeah,
that's okay, obviously, because the dog made a big mess. But I left. And he picked it up and he took care of it. And was he a little stressed going to work? Of course he was, because that's a stressful situation.
Yeah.
But I learned from that one, I'm like, saving him from that stress doesn't make our relationship any better. And it's just me over functioning so that he, in my mind, won't have the stress, but it doesn't do anyone any good in the long run. And
Yeah.
so that's the thing with dropping the ball. When your partner drops the ball, you have to leave it there on the floor and let the pieces fall where they are, unless they either come to you for help or you actually talk with them and be like, hey, and this is if you're in a good place, because I wouldn't have been in a good place to offer this help. I would have been like begrudgingly, do you want help cleaning it up? And he would have been like, yeah, I'd love help cleaning it up. I'm like,
For round.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did that taco hit you in the head? I didn't mean to. Must have
Yeah,
picked
I
it
was-
up too fast.
I was not in a place to offer it. I didn't want to offer it. I was pissed off. So I wouldn't have offered it in that situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless any communication happens now between him and I, then he handles his stuff that he's
Yeah.
responsible for, and I handle mine.
I love that. So rolling back into previous Brie life.
Yes.
In my
I have
first
questions.
relationship. Yeah, right. Okay. So here's how I read the comment of how to practice boundaries when your significant other refuses or neglects to show up. And then
Yeah.
also, because I was saying that I thought that these two comments might be in the same plate, like they might be actually in the exact same scenario.
Mhm.
But in the person that's like, I can't ask my husband to do stuff because I'm a stay-at-home mom. In my first marriage, my ex didn't do a whole lot of equal partnership
Yeah.
with parenting, home management, any of that. However, to his defense, when we first got married, I did want to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted, like, we had talked about it because my career was in early childhood, absolutely loved kids. And I knew that in my case, first of all, there was no childcares around me that we could afford that I trusted.
Yeah.
And two, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my kids, and I wanted to be there for them. And he 100% loved that idea. He's like, I love it. You be a stay-at-home parent, you take care of the kids, you take care of the house, and I will take care of the bills and the job. Great. Awesome. Sounds excellent.
Yeah.
Flash forward a few years later, and we still hadn't had kids yet. And so we were both still working. And it had already started with the whole Bree's in charge of everything in the house, and I only work. And I'll do like the outdoor yard stuff. And it was fine until it would come back of like, did you dust today? And I'm like, why would I worked an 8-hour shift. Like I worked all day. Why would I have dusted today? And he's like, well, it just looks dusty and you're in charge of the house. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, wait up. We have a house with no grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, we have a house with no grass. Like you do nothing outside except for take the trash out. And somehow I'm in charge of everything else. Like, no. So that started a little bit of the wait a minute here. And we did have some bumps. We figured that part out where it kind of came back to like, all right, Bree will be in charge of like, again, all of it when we have kids. Well, flash forward, like, I don't know, 2 years later, we had kids, but I couldn't stay home. We weren't financially stable enough for me to be able to stay home and raise the kids. So I still worked full time. Yet that partner thought, oh, we had a kid. We agreed you would take care of everything. So now it's all your job again.
See, okay. So I would like to point out though, that, and I am not a fan of him. I need to tell everybody this. Like, I'm just not a fan.
Oh, I think everybody knows that neither of us are fans, but go on.
Just know that always clouds my judgment when we're talking about this situation. Because I just want to point a hole in his logic there.
Okay.
His job was to take care of the bills. He didn't do that.
True.
Yeah.
And that was a case of animosity between the two of us. Did we talk about it? No.
Yeah.
No, we didn't talk about it. So like that's the thing that I want anybody to walk away from here. No matter where you are at in your relationship, you must talk about it, because not talking just makes it grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Because like you were talking earlier, you tell yourself stories in your head. Oh, that person doesn't care about me. Oh, they don't care about our family, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that wasn't it. And I can tell you for a fact, exactly what was going on was he still had the original agreement in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Even though
he wasn't fulfilling his side of the agreement.
Well, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Even though we weren't in a place where he was making enough money that I could be a stay-at-home mom, we never revisited that conversation. Because in my head, of course you would see that, you know, your partner is working full time and doing a full-time job of taking care of our family and our household, and you would step in and help.
Yeah.
He's like, you never asked me to, so I thought you were fine with managing everything.
Oh.
So then what happened, I grew and I changed.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer wanted to be a stay-at-home mom because quite honestly, we couldn't afford it. So it was like, why would I want to do something that is going to be detrimental to my well-being, my mental health, and my family? I need to have a job because we need to have enough money to live the lifestyle that we want to live. And that requires me to work, right?
And I want to put also add another thing into that.
Yeah.
For most American families today, it is impossible to survive on one income. Like both parents have to work. Like it's impossible. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So you need to realize that that's a hard one. So I'll tell you the next thing we did right after this.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.
Lynn, this time of year, parenting can be such a flusterclux.
You've come to the right place. I'm Lynn Lyons, and I've been treating anxious families for over 30 years.
I'm Lynn's sister-in-law and co-host Robin Hudson.
Join us for Flusterclux, a podcast for parents who worry.
Wait, that's everybody.
Yeah, these last few years have felt like one long anxiety attack for so many.
Why do you think parents are always surprised that a podcast about anxiety relates to them, even if no one in their house has an anxiety disorder?
Well, worry is human. Everyone does it. And anxiety shows up when we face uncertainty.
All the parenting tips you've taught me have been essential.
I love to break it down into skills we need to manage worry in our families.
We've covered so many topics: depression, burnout, meltdowns, perfectionism.
Don't forget scary mothers-in-law.
Right, but of course that's not my mother-in-law.
Because that's my mother.
And a listener.
As a psychotherapist, I like to teach parents and kids how to respond to everyday moments in healthy ways.
Managing anxiety really can be taught.
It really can. And I'll even tell you what to say.
We talk about serious stuff, but without being too serious.
Anxiety wants everything serious. Anxiety doesn't stand a chance when we're laughing, even about the tough stuff.
No one told us the truth about parenthood. Why? This is the podcast everyone needed before they had kids, because now that those little ones are here, there is a lot to unpack. I'm Rachel Shepardota, and I am your host for the podcast No One Told Us, where we tell the truth about parenting and let you in on all the stuff you really should have known about before having kids. I am the founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, but this podcast is so much more than sleep. We'll be diving into all the topics that you really care about and need to know while you do your best job raising those adorable, tiny humans. Our goal is to just make you feel less alone and less overwhelmed. There are so many things that no one tells us before becoming a parent, and I think that we should really pull back the curtain on becoming a first-time or second-time mom or dad to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have a little education, a little fun, and a whole lot of heart that goes into each and every episode. So join me and our amazing guests each week to hear us talk about what no one told us.
All right, so I'm coming back into this, and I wanted to say, so I grew and I figured out that, being a stay-at-home mom wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work for our lifestyle. And I felt like my husband understood that. He saw the bills. He saw we couldn't do it on just his salary. But for whatever reason, not all that stuff clicked with him. So when I explained to him that I wanted more help with the parenting because I was not going to be able to be a stay-at-home mom, he was like, that's not what I signed up for. I signed up for you taking care of the house and the kids.
Uh-huh.
And there was absolutely, and it's not my fault if I can't make more money right now so that you can stay home. You can stay home. That's great. You can totally stay home, Brie. Just we need to cancel your cell phone because we can't afford a cell phone, and we need to cancel the internet because we can't afford internet.
I really do not like him.
Things to me that were like, whoa, I'm not willing to give that up. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, I can see both sides of this because I started with I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. This is my job. It's not his job. I wouldn't ask him to do this. And then it turned into me feeling so bitter, so held back because I did not have an equal partner.
No.
And I could yell, and the only way that the equal partner ever popped out was if I cried. If I got to the point where I broke down and I cried, the equal partner would pop out for a little while, and then we would go back to where we were. And why? Because we had grown to different roles, and we no longer jived, I guess is what I'm saying. But I do think that communicating is where you have to be on that, though, because it only, like I said, it only got better because I'll be honest with you, when I said I cried, that's when I would break down and actually ask for what I needed.
Yeah. But also it's the responsibility of both partners too to come in and make the changes. So it's awesome that you are able to be like, I actually asked for what I needed, and then he would show up. But
for a little bit. That's a red flag, people. Red flag.
Red flag to the extreme. Anyways, but it's also the responsibility of both partners. So, I mean, you realize that he wasn't willing to make any adjustments for you in the long term that would actually work.
Mm-hmm.
But you were willing to like work around his stuff too. You were fulfilling the role of a partner. He wasn't. And I think that's so important for people to hear, because a lot of women put all of the responsibility on themselves. Like if they feel like they're constrained in the relationship, if they feel like they can't spend the money on themselves, if they feel like they can't spend the time on themselves, it's
They can't
usually
ask.
because they can't ask. But it's usually because also their partner isn't willing to budge on anything for them. And that's the hard point. That's a really, really hard point. And that's a very different conversation than
Exactly.
seeing a partner who is just kind of oblivious that you really need to have those conversations with. So it's almost like you need to put them through kind of the steps of the process. Is your partner oblivious? Okay, time to have a conversation. Time to use those skills to state your needs. Time to see what they need. If those conversations have failed, maybe it's time to get outside help for those conversations in terms of coaching, in terms of therapy, whatever it needs. And if that fails, then you have to consider, okay, is this it's the relationship and the way where both partners are. And this is not my fault anymore. And I've tried everything that I have tried to do.
But I also feel like everything that you said before, like, so like when you ran through the steps on, your husband not taking the trash out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one thing I love about your relationship, just because I know you and your husband so well. I always loved looking at the two of you because from the get-go, you guys both wanted to be equal partners with each other. And that communication started while you guys were dating. Like you would tell me the stories and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine being that self-aware of what I wanted in college. But go ahead.
Well, I think I was aware of what I didn't want. I would get so mad at my dad, so mad at him. Because I would see my mom and I would see her struggle and I would see what she needed, but she also didn't feel like she could ask for it. Nor would she like hold him accountable for it because it's just not communication skills she had at the time. Nor did I realize that those were actual skills that you could develop. I thought it was like something innate in people. Some people were just stronger than others, and some people were more touchy-feely than others, but really they're just come down to communication skills.
Yes. And I
totally
think so many of
learnable.
us believe that, though. Like what you just said, so many of us believe that, like, oh, it's just their personality. They're just like that. And it's no,
it's not.
Skills.
It's skills, it's strategies. And I saw her work her ass off at home and at work. And my dad would just be relaxing. And that's a personal trigger for me, even now to this day. If I see, like, if I have 1,000 things running down my to-do list in my head and I see my husband on his phone doing crossword puzzles and playing Sudoku, something ignites in me where I'm just like, and I have to realize that in myself and I have to calm down that trigger before I have the conversation with him. So I know what I don't want. And I always went for the spot of like, we are not going to have this dynamic.
Yeah. And you knew what you didn't want, I feel like, at much earlier age than I did. But I digress. So what I want to say to people out there that are where I was, you had originally started this relationship and maybe you had an in-depth conversation. Maybe it was just a conversation in passing where it was like, I will take care of the family in the house and you'll take care of the other things, whatever it is that they're supposed to take care of. And now time has passed and you're like, what the hell? I am doing my share plus more and I'm mad. I'm mad that you're not showing up to help me. I'm mad that you're not seeing that I need assistance, but all of that, right? I think everything you said is where you need to start still. You need to, first of all, not engage while you're pissed off and angry, because that turns into a whole lot of finger pointing and a whole lot of you do this and you do that and you blah, blah, blah. And when you're doing that, you're telling the story that's in your head, right?
Yeah, it's your trigger. It's your emotional thing. I mean, I was having this conversation with one of our coaching clients, and she was talking about how her sons use every single like water bottle she has. Anything that's hers, they'll drink out of it. and it
Yeah.
pisses her off. And as we
Wait.
dug,
While she's drinking out of it too, like
no,
she
it's
filled
just
the
like
water
by
bottle?
the side. It's by her
Oh,
side,
okay.
and like, yeah,
Well,
they'll take
that's
it.
what I guess I mean. Like she filled it up, and they will walk over and just be like, "Oh, good water bottle." Glug glug glug.
Yeah.
That is so. Okay, I'm sorry. In my opinion, that is rude.
Okay, but
Go on.
here's what we found out.
Mhm.
When we talked about it a little more, she said, "You know what? I think it pisses me off because it's something that my ex used to do. He would just take whatever I had and use it for his own. And I think like I see that in my kids that they're acting like my ex." And I'm
Ding,
like,
ding, ding, ding,
that
ding,
is
ding, ding,
such a
ding.
good thing to be aware of, because a lot of the things that probably make you mad right now, you do have a story in your
Yeah.
head that doesn't have anything to do with the other person. It's all to do with your past experience. And so you have to first recognize that story. And if you're having a hard time recognize that story, that's what coaching can help you with. That's what we do here at No Guilt Mom. That's what we do in our balance program. And find out those stories first. So that's one thing to help you take it down from like your level 10 angry to a level 2.
Yeah, because I think that's the part that a lot of us feel like. I feel like when you're really upset and you don't know, you look around and you're like, this just freaking sucks. You don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, again, I feel like having that coaching can
Mhm.
help you move in the direction you need to move in to start that conversation,
It really does.
to get to a point where you can figure out things. Because again, like in my case, a lot of the conversation needed to be, I feel this way. I couldn't get that out because like in a normal situation where I was left to do something, I would yell, "You never help me, you never do XYZ." And he would shut down and he'd be like, if you're just going to yell at me, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
His favorite thing was, I'm going to go to the bar then. And would leave and go to the bar. And in my case, like it wasn't until I would cry and break down that I could realize that that's for some reason when that I speak would come out.
Mhm.
I feel lost. I feel alone. I feel unsupported. And then there would be some step in. But because I had to get to that point every time, like that's where like things kind of just started to get like exhausting. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's maybe why now when I have an equal partner, when that equal partner offers to help or just flat out helps without me asking, I feel guilty, like I'm doing something wrong.
It's like you didn't have to work for it.
Right. Because
Mhm.
I had what, 16 years of having to work for it.
Yeah. And that could be a huge change to make.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a lot of time of believing that that's how things had to work. So give yourself some self-compassion if you feel
Mhm.
guilty asking for assistance from somebody. I think we've said this before, at least in balance in our coaching community, that the idea that only one person is in charge of a home and a family that you're all a part of is kind of cuckoo bananas.
It is. It is cuckoo.
Right?
Yes, it's so much work on one person. So if right now you're feeling like your husband doesn't get help out, go through these steps. First of all, make sure the roles are clear and that they're roles you want to be in. Like that's an important part. And then once the roles are decided, let those pieces fall. Don't step in when the ball is dropped, and see what happens and let them experience those negative consequences of the situation. Don't jump in right away. And then also, like, make sure that you are open with your feelings and communicating and having that open dialogue where the relationship can evolve, because it's not meant to stay the same forever. It's not.
Exactly.
And if you need it to
Like,
change, it could change. It can change.
that's what just like, yeah, you can. Everybody grows. Your kids
Everybody
are
grows.
not the same kid. Like we give that grace to our children.
Mm-hmm.
What my kids were like at 4 is not what they were like at 11, and it's not like what they are now at 16, 17. We
Exactly.
expect them to grow. So should we. And so
Mhm.
should our partners.
Absolutely.
And that's why you need to have the conversation. So there are links to all of this that we talked about today in the episode. We've got a link to the blog post. We have a link to our balance program. We have a link to our podcast group on Facebook. So by all means, check that stuff out. And you know what else they could do, Joanne?
What is that?
they could rate and review.
Absolutely. We greatly appreciate that when you guys review us. So remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.